Chernobyl. My name is Catherine.
And I'm
Hannah.
Logan. Welcome to Cocktails in Waverly's office. Today we'll be talking about the Fiddlesticks Affair, which is episode 16, I believe.
Yes.
So Hannah, if you want to go into an overview of what this episode's about.
So, in the Fiddlesticks Affair, Napoleon and Illya are given a mission to go to a thrush treasury that happens to be underneath a casino. And this thrush treasury has, I think, is it $55 million?
Yes.
And so it is supposedly the money that's covering all of the thrush operations for the Western Hemisphere. And because of that, their goal is actually to blow up the treasury, not steal the money, not do anything with the money, just light it all on fire. But the casino has this extremely elaborate security system, and they've been practicing for the past couple days on a version of the safe at the Uncle headquarters, and they suck at it. So they're going in partially blind because they don't know what all of the traps are, and also they've failed repeatedly at trying it in the Uncle headquarters, and yet for some reason they go ahead with the mission anyway.
And yet they're also amazingly prepared. So
oh yeah,
anyways.
yes.
Yeah.
So they go to this casino, and it's on a place called Emerald Island, which immediately put me in the mind of Sonic the Hedgehog, because that's where Knuckles the Echidna lives.
I didn't know the Sonic lore.
Yep. I was a big Sonic fan when I was like 11. So they go to the Emerald Island and they fight Knuckles the Echidna. No. So they go to the Emerald Island.
It's the crossover we need.
Yes. And their intention there is to pick up a woman who they can use as a distraction and a safecracker who is an electronics expert. And it's Ilya's job to get the electronics expert on their side, and it's Napoleon's job to seduce the woman into their plan. And then much of the episode actually is the break-in and the safe-cracking itself. So it's a very, Mission Impossible kind of episode. And it involves some double-crossing because the safecracker that they recruit actually secretly wants to work for Thrush. And involves some scuba diving and some mines and some electrified fences, and it's a pretty rollicking good time. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, this episode is really fun to watch. Like, it's got just that perfect amount of, tension because of, there's, a time lock on when they can enter the vault area. It's only between 12 and 12:15 a.m., I'm pretty sure. So, they have, this really big time crunch that's just oh, will they get in or will they not get in? Of course they do, because, they of course they... If they, died or something, then there's no more Man from U.N.C.L.E. episode.
I really like the idea that they would just not get in, and they'd just be sitting there being like, well, this was a bust.
Yeah. Man, they just die in this episode in the first season, and all 3 other U.N.C.L.E. episodes are just devoted to Waverly.
Yeah, by the way, what do we think about Uncle? Sending them anyway, even if they're, not completely prepared for it.
Well,
I actually, it's pretty amazing that U.N.C.L.E. even made up that, fake, version in the first place.
Yeah!
Their track record.
Yeah. They cared.
They are just spending all their money on Napoleon suits and therapy.
Yeah, I feel like also the fact that, as we've mentioned previously, they repeatedly say, Ilya and Napoleon are the best agents in New York. So I guess they might be kind of feeling they're the best agents, so they can't do it in practice. Well, it's not like we have anyone better.
Yeah. I mean, it was mostly them requiring to think on the spot. So I guess it worked out.
Yeah.
Like, even though they were supposed to be thinking on the spot, like I gotta say, like Napoleon was amazingly prepared. Like he had
Yeah.
he had like these giant rubber rafts to like go on the like, electric flooring, and I'm just like, okay, I don't know why you would even have that. And then like he had like this coolant spray to like go right on the thermometer in like the heat sensitive room, and I'm like, damn, Napoleon's so prepared.
I think
Yeah.
that the coolant spray, didn't he say it was actually like a canister of CO2? So I'm not
Yeah.
sure that it was actually coolant so much as the propellant can be used to cool. It's the
Okay.
same with, like, if you have a can of compressed air, if you flip it upside down and spray it that way, the propellant comes out cold, and you can freeze stuff with it. I know that
that's
because I used to
interesting.
use it to kill centipedes in my dorm.
Wow. That's an experience.
Yeah, it still doesn't explain the like that makes sense. Like that Napoleon would have something like that. Like that's more general than like a friggin' coolant. But at the same time, like why does he have the rubber wraps? Like those are pretty bulky.
Yeah, we should make very clear, it's also not one rubber raft. He has like 4.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny when you think about the fact that they are on an island where there's only a casino, so I guess they had to take the raft with them when they arrived to the island. I don't know. It's
Maybe it's like
yeah.
maybe
was
he
in
brought
his-
the just in case like he needed to make a speedy escape out in the water with Illya.
Also, there's nothing speedier than a rubber raft. Illya, doggy paddle faster!
No, don't worry. He can use the CO2 to propel him.
You figured it out. That's why he had both of those things.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, he is ridiculously prepared. It's actually one of the like most one of the episodes in which they are at their most competent, despite the fact that at the beginning of the episode, Waverly is like, "You're incompetent."
Yeah, it's funny.
And then yeah. And then, like, also there's the whole thing about, like, it being very plot convenient that Thrush keeps its entire treasury in one vault, in one casino. Well, not its entire treasury. It said only in Thrush's Western Hemisphere, I believe.
Yeah.
But still, that's a
Yes.
huge area. Because, you know, probably, like, Thrush East has its own treasury, I guess.
I feel like I need to look up, like, what was the operating budget of, like, NATO during that time period, because I feel like
It's a
$55
good
million
question.
for the entirety of the Western Hemisphere actually does not seem like enough money.
Yeah, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah, but then I'm kind of like torn. Like it seems like it's not enough money, but also I don't really know to the degree of inflation at that time. But it still doesn't really feel like enough. But it could be inflation making it feel like be more valuable. But I don't know.
Yeah, my ability to do inflation money in my head is not good.
Me neither. So like I don't know.
It's probably still less than like 1 billion, so anyway, it's not that much.
Apparently, it cost $17 million to open Disneyland in 1955.
Oh.
So it apparently, Thrush's entire Western Hemisphere operating budget is only like 4 Disneylands.
I mean, it's actually good to know because, like, you know, U.N.C.L.E is also a pretty cheap organization.
Yeah.
I feel like that really
there's-
brings into question the whole scale of the entire series. Like, U.N.C.L.E and Thrush aren't really these big organizations at all. They're actually just like 2 groups of assholes fighting each other.
Yeah. And like what if like, you know, like there's like the Cold War organizations are all doing the real stuff while like U.N.C.L.E and Thrush are just doing their own bullshit.
Look, Thrush is basically just an organization of fanboys. Don't you remember? It's only fanboys.
I buy this. This is my new theory.
This is a great theory. I'm definitely gonna adopt this because, like, you know, for the longest time I thought of like maybe either like being some alternate universe where the Cold War isn't nearly as big of a deal, and that's why Illya and Napoleon can work together on U.N.C.L.E. But it also is very plausible that U.N.C.L.E. and Thrush are just so insignificant that it doesn't even matter on the world stage.
It's devastating, actually.
U.N.C.L.E. is like, yeah, we hired this ex-Soviet. It's fine. We don't really care. No one cares. No one cares about U.N.C.L.E.
I think it's fair to assume that U.N.C.L.E. is budgeted by the taxpayers' money, so I guess like military gets everything and U.N.C.L.E. gets what, like, maybe education has?
So what I'm hearing is that U.N.C.L.E. is basically like, you know, the education system instead.
Yeah, I'm. Well, if U.N.C.L.E. Or is U.N.C.L.E. Survival School funded by U.N.C.L.E. or the education system?
No, I meant
I really hope that the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education in the United States is like, yeah, no, we fund the survival school. You have to be a licensed teacher to teach there. You have to have gotten your teacher certification license. You have to, you know, have 5 years of experience teaching in an inner city school before you can go there.
Yeah. Oh. We should actually get back to the episode.
It would be awful. So basically, this episode was written by Peter Allen Fields, who later became a regular writer on the show, and he is mostly known for being one of those writers who constantly write Napoleon and Lydia like they're married or something. So
Yeah.
That makes sense. You know, like that one scene where like when like Napoleon and Illya are toasting, and then like Napoleon says, "And may we live to tell the tale." And that's a direct quote from him. And then Napoleon winks at Illya.
Yeah, and then Susan. So the two other characters in this episode are Susan, who is the young woman they seduce into being part of their plan, and Rudolph, who is the safecracker. And Susan, in this scene where they toast, and it's super romantically shot, like it's very like there's soft curtains behind them, and it's like sort of there's like twinkly music playing, and they have champagne, and like after they toast and Napoleon winks, Susan comes in from the side and says, literally, "Someone pay some attention to me?"
yeah.
And it's like this poor woman is like, "You were both trying to seduce me like 3 minutes ago. Why are you gay now?"
Yeah. And also, okay, I have to say that, like, okay, this might not be like a intentional part on the writers or directors or whatever, because that would be absolutely like kind of absurd to me. But I have to say that Napoleon and Susan. Okay, by the way, we should mention that Susan is the innocent. They kind of get into everything. Susan and Napoleon have the worst kiss I've ever seen. Like, they kind of like pucker their lips and then press them together without any actual further action. Like it's like not a kiss, it's just like a pushing your puckered lips together. And I'm just like, I hate it.
It's definitely a, like, let's mash our faces together situation, which is weird because Napoleon usually at least has some level of chemistry with the women in the episodes. But not this one.
I guess the thing is that it's implied that she's very young, so maybe he doesn't feel quite right about it in a way.
Yeah, maybe.
Because
I think she says she's 22.
yeah, but also I don't know. she acts younger, as the thing is,
Yeah,
I would agree with that.
yeah, true. She's like she acts very young and also like pretty, and also like she has like the friggin' like lollipop, and I'm just like, oh my god, she acts like she's really young.
Yeah. I mean, actually, the actress who played Angelique, we all remember Angelique, right? She was also very, very young, but she looked older, and she acted like she was like 30, I guess.
Yeah. I have to say, my husband actually watched this one with me.
Yeah.
He doesn't usually, and he was somewhat mortified by the fact that I was going through, like, the fact that Susan was 22, and he was like, how old is Napoleon? And I'm like, well, he's never given an actual age. I'm like, but Robert Vaughn was like 33 when he filmed this episode. Yeah. My husband was like, what? He's our age? And I was like, yeah, he was a heavy smoker.
Yeah. Oh my mom said the same. My mom said the same thing, like when we watched Man from U.N.C.L.E. together. Like she thought that Ilya. She thought that Illya was way younger than Napoleon, and yeah, I'm like,
they're a year apart.
They're a year apart.
It's super funny because my husband and I have been watching Hustle over these past couple months, which has a much older Robert Vaughn in it, and the first thing he said when we started the episode was just, "Aw, young Albie," which was super cute.
That's absolutely justifiable because I absolutely love Albie as well because he was a great character in Hustle.
Yeah.
And I am actually completely mortified by the fact that I am the same age as Illya.
Yep.
I don't know how to deal with it.
Yeah, when I think about the fact that Illya and Napoleon are my age, I'm like, okay. Does that mean I'm doing better or worse than they are? Like...
Yeah. With it, it's kind of weird because he looks pretty young, and you basically think that he's young, but at the same time, he is so accomplished in everything. He's like a 40-year-old in a 25-year-old body.
That makes so much sense, because like literally like that's why he looks like old and young at the same time.
Yeah. So
that's
I don't know how to age.
Big. Yeah, it's weird.
So basically, this episode was so filled with Napoleon and Illya flirting with each other. It had one of those iconic scenes in which Napoleon was meeting with Illya in a dark alley. And they were both wearing tuxedos. And then later, Illya says, "You're so dashing."
Mm-hmm. It's the whole scene. So my notes for this episode. So first off, the safecracker in this episode is also Rudolph is really like very heavily like villainously queer coded.
Yeah.
And so this whole episode, my notes just literally, it says, Rudolph lounging sexily on the bed. My notes say, in all capital letters, gay, 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 gay. And Illya sitting really close, gay, 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 gay.
Oh my god. The scene in which Illya pretends to be a drunk scientist.
Oh my god.
Oh god. And how he grabs the guy's necktie.
Yeah.
Yep.
He breathes right into his mouth.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I actually wrote down for that. So, Illya, drunken in glasses, playing a very sassy scientist, grabs a man by the receptionist counter by his tie. And I specifically wrote, there's a moment where it cuts back to him manhandling the receptionist again in a way that indicates he wasn't supposed to still be touching him. So there's a really weird cut where he's holding the guy's tie and then he lets go. And then when there's an actual, like, camera cut, and Illya has his hand on the guy again, and it totally seems like it's clearly a, like, we just changed the order of things happening in this scene. But what it seems like is that he just is like, I put my hands all over him again for no reason.
Yeah! It's
And this
like,
Yeah, this.
it's like he's pretending to be an absolute disaster gay. I don't know how to describe it otherwise.
Yeah, 100%. And
You know, this whole show is full of like things that aren't explicitly said to be gay, but make a lot more sense when you think of them that way. And this
Yeah.
is one of them.
Yep. Even, like, the first introduction we get to Rudolph is there's a woman talking to him from afar. Or rather, he and the woman are far away from Illya. Illya is watching him, and Rudolph is talking to this woman, and he's smiling, and she's kind of flirting with him, and then she, like, blows him a kiss and walks off in the other direction, and Rudolph, like, really obviously slumps and rolls his eyes. And it's such a moment of, like, this guy has been trying to play like he's interested in this woman, and he clearly isn't. And there's no explanation of that given in the episode. Like, we never come back to that woman. It's not something that's important. And so it seems very strongly to me like the way they're introducing this character is very clearly like, this is a man who's not interested in women.
Yeah, and even like in the scene when Napoleon and Illya were in the plane discussing the operation that they were going to have, Illya was like, you are going to have to, like, seduce a woman, and I am left with Rudolph? It just sounded like he was going to seduce Rudolph.
So his exact words are, Rudolph is mine. My notes there are, Illya likes daddies. For those of us listening along at home, Rudolph is played by Dan O'Herlihy, which is interesting. He's playing someone, I think, French, but it's actually an Irish guy who's doing it. Dan O'Herlihy was pretty handsome when he was younger, and he has a sort of, like, nice-looking salt and pepper beard in this episode. And again, he's very queer-coded, and so the idea that Illya, like, sees this guy and is like, oh, so sad. Napoleon's gonna go after the woman. So sad for me. I guess I have to go after this handsome bearded man. The whole scene where Illya and Rudolph meet is actually spectacular because
Absolutely, yeah.
basically in the scene where Ilya is grabbing the receptionist's tie, he's doing so to convince Rudolph, who he hasn't actually met yet, that he's a drunk and therefore an easy mark because Rudolph is a thief. And so anyway, Rudolph sneaks into Ilya's room, and he goes to grab the suitcase that Illya had been very drunkenly yelling about how much money it had inside. And as he picks up the suitcase from the dark, Illya takes a photo of him, and the exchange between them once Rudolph figures out what's going on, he says something like to Illya, like, well, you looked easy down in the lobby. And Illya pushes him onto the bed and says, I wonder how you'll look in my photographs. And from the bed, Rudolph says, I am in a somewhat awkward position. And then Illya sits on the side of the bed, super close to him, and then they get their faces really, really close to each other. And it just is like, if Rudolph were a woman, it would be so obvious to anyone watching that this was a, like, belligerent sexual tension thing.
Yeah. Rudillya forever.
Rudillya. It's the equivalent of Natine Sapolion.
You know that one writer who always makes Illya, like, weirdly straight? I forgot his name, but like if he wrote this episode and Marcel, like Rudolph would be a woman.
Yeah, it was Alan Caillou.
Yeah, Caillou.
Yes, yes.
Speaking of Illya, even more, it was the first episode, I think, in which Illya acts really different from what we are used to, because, like, he's usually such a cool guy, and, I mean, he is a wild card, but at the same time, he had been pretty, like, straight, I guess we could say, before, but in this episode, he's so wild, so unpredictable. And I would also like to mention the scene in which he was trying to piss off Susan. Like, he was trying to pretend to hit on her. And Napoleon came to her rescue. It was such a weird scene as well. It happened right after the scene in which he met Rudolph for the first time. Do you have any comments about this scene?
Yeah, it's very interesting because I feel like this is one of the first episodes where Illya is actually like more clearly a weirdo.
Yeah.
And he also is super threatening in this episode.
Yes.
Like
He's so scary.
There's a couple of things that he says to. I'm trying to remember, like at the end of the episode when they're escaping from the safe, he says something to Rudolph that just is like, God, I didn't write it down, but it was really, really funny and super threatening. Damn it, what was it? It's like Rudolph is trying to get out of the safe as well, and Illya says something like, you know, you better follow, or, and then there's some sort of very strange threat.
Oh, I didn't write it down either. I look at my notes and it's not there.
It sounds very much like Illya. So,
yeah.
A weird threat.
Like Illya also made like a very good funny quip in this episode that I wrote down because I was like, oh, that's so Illya, but it hasn't been quite established yet. Like when Napoleon says that Illya could be blown up on this mission, he says, and I quote, a good agent should be in many places at once.
Yeah. It's very...
That and also the scene where Rudolph asks of the two of them, are you insane? And Ilya's response is, no, I'm chilly. This is, I think, the first episode in which he's super bitchy.
Yeah. This is a theme from later Illya.
Yep.
Yeah, also, if you follow me on Tumblr, you know that my nickname is the Nifty Cat, and I actually picked up the word nifty from this episode.
Oh, yeah.
I specifically wrote down the word nifty when Susan said it. So we mentioned that Susan acts very young, despite the fact that at some point she says she's 22. So she's from, I think, does she say Minnesota?
Minneapolis.
So that's in
Minneapolis,
Minnesota.
Yeah.
So she's from Minneapolis, and she talks about the fact that she's super sheltered, and she's never been away from her parents for all that long. And when Illya is fake flirting with her, and then Napoleon comes in to quote save her from him, she orders a scotch and cola, and Napoleon just kind of looks at her like, ew. and then she says something about wanting to make one unforgivable mistake, and Napoleon hilariously lights up ooh, one horrible mistake, that's me. But the reason this episode is called the Fiddlesticks Affair is that that's her catchphrase, is when something goes wrong, she's like, oh, fiddlesticks. But she also says something...
That was a perfect impression.
Deep down inside, I'm a 22-year-old from Minneapolis. And so she also at some point says something about, I don't even remember what is nifty, but she calls something nifty, and she's just very naive.
Yeah, but also, like, basically, when Napoleon is threatening Ilya, after Ilya was hitting her, Napoleon said the word nifty so many times. I remember now. Ilya said, wouldn't it be nifty if we got to know each other better or something like that? And Napoleon replied, like, it would be nifty if you left right now.
Yeah.
Yes, it's actually not her that says nifty, you're right.
Yeah, and then, your username is the Nifty Cat, because, it's Illya who's saying nifty. I had an interesting thought when I saw, Illya swimming in his, scuba suits to go and go to the mined area. I literally just thought, if he's a cat and he's swimming, does that make him a tiger?
Oh yeah, we should point out that so in this episode there is a whole sequence where Illya is just in a wetsuit for 30 minutes. And there's a scene where he busts through a wall near the end. So the whole insane roundabout safe cracking is that, Napoleon and Rudolph go in through all the traps while Illya drills from the other side so that they can make an easy escape. But Illya has to wait to do the drilling because otherwise he'll explode. Hence, Logan pointing out earlier the line where a good agent should be in many places at once.
And that's because that you have to disable the mines from inside the vault. So that's what Napoleon has to do.
Yes. Yeah, the electrified wall will explode or something. But so anyway, when he does finally get through the wall, for whatever reason they decide the best way to shoot this sequence of Illya coming through the wall is head on, which is to say there's just a big full-on shot of Ilya's crotch in a wetsuit as he comes through this hole in the wall.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
And then
let's be real. Cameramen in this show were kind of weird sometimes. So we got a lot of crotches, a lot of asses, anything.
Oh yeah, there's so many crotch and butt shots in this show.
Yeah.
They're completely gratuitous. Maybe it's fan service.
Yeah. Well, the scene where they're cracking the fake safe in the beginning is super cute too, because they're both in all black and dirty. Yeah. And it's so obvious how Illya weighs 10 pounds. And Napoleon is in a similar outfit and has this little belly, and it's the cutest thing ever.
Yeah. I love Napoleon's dad bod.
My notes say Napoleon's lil tum tum. He's very dadly in this episode, because also at one point in one of the scenes where he's supposed to be seducing Susan, he's just in this absolute dad sweater.
Yeah.
And then he puts his hand in a bagel.
Yeah. I love Susan more than many other instances, I guess, because they didn't play it very serious. So when Napoleon is trying to seduce her, you basically see it as comedy, because he doesn't really want to seduce her.
Yeah, you don't really get the feeling that he's oh yeah, I'm gonna sleep with this lady. That does not seem like his intention.
Yeah.
That usually seems like his intention.
He like even at the end of the episode, like it literally like I didn't like when they joke about she was like going to Las Vegas because they have the casinos have a lot of money and they have big vaults and stuff. Like it doesn't even feel like they're gonna have sex. It just feels like they're just gonna Napoleon's just gonna use his gamble accurate prediction device, and then she's just gonna make loads of money.
I actually get the feeling that they might just drop her off in Vegas and leave.
Yeah,
that too.
Yeah, I actually really like Susan, but she definitely is not one of the innocents who is more like, you don't get the feeling that like she's gonna go on to a life of spying.
No, this is just gonna be one wild tale she has, and then she just moves on with her life.
Her parents are gonna be like, yes, dear, sure, dear.
Yeah. Yeah, but still, like, I actually really liked her because, like, she did, like, show, like, she did have, like, her own strength. Like, for example, like, when she was, like, the diversion while, like, Napoleon and Illya were getting into the vaults. Like, I found that to be, like, a really cool scene because, like, it showed, like, how, like, she totally, like, played off, like, the hysterical woman trope that exists in reality as well as in fiction, and made that into, like, a diversion for, like, the guy who runs the casino and is, like, the main big bad guy who's not, like, morally, like, more ambiguous, like Rudolph. Like, Anton Corbel is, like, the big bad head honcho who runs the casino as a part of Thrush. And, like, he totally, like, buys into it for a little bit. Like, of course it eventually doesn't work, and, like, he ends up capturing her, and then Napoleon has to rescue her. But in that moment, I really like the strength she showed and playing into the idea of what women are expected to, but to create a better end for the mission.
Yeah, it's true. It was a very good scene. I also loved it.
Yeah.
I mean, the way she played hysterical, but she was also very nervous at the same time because she had like a time frame to work in, and so it was so many levels of play. It was interesting to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like she definitely like that definitely takes like some like strength, and like, not just like strength as in like bravery, but just strength as in like just like like mental dexterity, as in like having to get all these little pieces lined up in the right order, and like that shows that she's like even though like she may seem like all innocent and like sheltered and everything, like she's actually really intelligent, and I think that was really cool to see.
Well, I mean, the whole thing about her is that she doesn't want to be sheltered or innocent. She wants to be deprived.
Yeah, she wants to be deprived, but then literally on the airplane, she's like back to like eating a lollipop. I don't know. Maybe it's like you know, like the one like is it Pokemon character who like, or is it some other anime character who like in like the Americanized version, like his cigarettes got turned into lollipops?
One Piece.
It's One Piece, yeah.
One Piece, yes. Sanji, he was a heavy smoker in the original, and in the very bad original English dub, he's like, "This is my lollipop." They gave him a smoker voice, but no smokes. There is actually a line in this episode where Napoleon says something about Illya, like he doesn't even smoke. Which is very interesting. Because Napoleon doesn't smoke either.
I actually think there is a complete reason to this, and I noticed there was a bit of a motif of the dichotomy between smoking and not smoking in this episode that I've been wanting to go into but haven't seen the right opportunity to, but now I shall. So, when Napoleon says that Illya doesn't even smoke, like to justify to to Susan that he's like not a creep. Like literally after that scene, they show like Marcel Rudolph and Anton Corbel like having like these massive fat cigars and like blowing up a whole bunch of smoke.
Yeah.
And it's like it shows a dichotomy between like these like good like pure people who like don't smoke and like these more warped individuals who do. And like this also is further like solidified by how when like Napoleon is like stuck with Rudolph in this like time like this like 7-minute quarantine area before being allowed into the vault, and in that scene like Napoleon frets that Illya will blow up, and right after he says that, Rudolph just lights a cigarette. So like it shows that, like he's like this bad guy who like doesn't really care, and like the cigarette smoking like furthers this dichotomy. So I found that really interesting. I didn't notice it until like the third time watching it, but I do think that was deliberate.
I mean,
that's very interesting.
It is interesting, yeah. And also, like, actually, Napoleon did smoke in a couple of episodes from season 1, but only in 2 of them. Maybe you remember in the Strigas, in the Project Strigas affair, he smoked a cigarette when they were trying to intimidate a Russian spy, I think.
Yeah.
Basically, yeah, Illya was playing a tough guy, and they were giving the Russian spy cigarettes that they told him were like
poisoned
in truth serum or something like that. I don't remember. Yeah, and then Napoleon smoked one of them to show that they're completely ordinary cigarettes, I guess. So
yeah, I think we talked during that episode about the fact that one of the writers or one of the producers actually very specifically from the beginning said they didn't want Napoleon and Illya to be smokers.
Yes, it was the creator of the show, Norman Felton. He felt very strongly about not teaching young kids to smoke.
Yeah, it's like I definitely feel like this like good and not smoking, evil smoking dichotomy can be seen throughout The Man from U.N.C.L.E. So it's interesting noticing like, in this episode it's super obvious, but like it does exist throughout the show.
I mean, I haven't actually noticed it before. Maybe it's not that obvious, but it is a solid use of cinematic language, I guess.
Yeah. Like it's definitely propaganda, but I'd say it's good propaganda.
Yeah.
It's definitely better than like Camels are the smoothest cigarette recommended by 9 out of 10 doctors.
Oh no! Yeah, I've seen those old ads.
And as you might have noticed, in season 1 they have communicators that look like cigarette boxes, right? And later they changed them for pens. So it was also a conscious decision because they didn't want to sell toys that looked like cigarette boxes.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess that means that the only good guy who smokes is like Alexander Waverly. But he smokes pipe.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think like maybe like even then like like pipes have like a connotation of being like a more like gentlemanly way of smoking.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what your grandpa does.
Yeah. Or Sherlock Holmes.
I got to confess that when I was 14, I thought that when I become like 18, I would start smoking pipe immediately. I still haven't, and I'm certain.
Yeah, like I have to say, like if it didn't like mess up your body, like I would totally smoke a pipe. Yeah.
So I guess we were also conditioned by the culture that smoking is cool.
I mean, we've had this conversation before about how I have a real problem with fictional smoking. Although not fictional pipe smoking. That does not turn me on.
No.
Really? I like all fictional smoking, whether it's cigarettes or pipes or whatever. Like, it's all good.
For me, pipe smoking is like what you do when you want to think, right? But cigarette is something that you do when you're maybe nervous or you have a free minute, and it's more tense. I guess, like smoking a cigarette.
Yeah.
So it is more sexual.
But I would say that, like, smoking a pipe, like, maybe, like, that laid-back energy that comes with it can be attractive in its own way. Of course, the person smoking it has to be attractive, too. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not into septuagenarians like Waverly, but, but still, I think it can be attractive in its own way in a fictional context. Man, we should get back to the Man from U.N.C.L.E.
I feel like at least every couple of episodes we just devolve into some kind of conversation about smoking, which is really weird.
Yeah.
I guess that the Man from U.N.C.L.E. is very good at exposing conditions that we were given from our childhood, because we all grew up with media from the 20th century, right? So basically, there are many things that were seen as cool back then, but not now. And when you watch The Man from U.N.C.L.E., you are exposed to it, and you're like, "Oh, I get it now." I understand why I like fictional smoking, but when I watch modern shows, I'm not exposed to it, so I forget about it, I guess.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
gotta
that's
say,
fair.
I'm not a furry, but, like, me as a child, like the Pink Panther, like the cartoon character, he was so cool with his pipe.
Yeah, he was very cool.
No, he didn't have a pipe. He had a cigarette holder. Yeah.
One of the long ones.
He kind of looked like Ian Fleming's persona.
Oh my god.
I mean, I feel like we've talked before also about the fact that as someone who was in fact a Sonic the Hedgehog fan as a small child, I don't actually know how I managed to not become a furry. And I feel like frequently my husband and I are like, God, that was another weird thing you liked as a small child that was about like slightly handsome talking animals. How did you not become a furry?
I guess nobody can escape from it because we were spoon-fed furry costumes.
Literally, my whole childhood was just furry content.
Yeah.
There's a lot of kids shows about talking animals.
Yeah, and I gotta say, like, okay, I'm so sorry, Mom. I'm gonna expose you here. But, like, when she was a kid, okay, so you know the furry adaptation of Robin Hood with like the talking animals that was made by Disney.
Yes.
She kind of had a crush on the fox when she was a kid. I love you, Mom.
Every single person on the planet has a crush on the fox from Robin Hood. What are you talking about?
I mean, he looks great.
It's the teeth. It's definitely the teeth.
Oh my god. I somehow tried to get us back on topic and we got even more far away.
Anyway, furries. The one from
Okay. So wait. Here's a back on topic thing. I mentioned that that Rudolph is very like villainously queer coded. I forgot we have a scene where he and the actual like big bad, the thrush agent who owns the casino, whose name just
Anton
Corbell. So it's right after the scene where Illya and well, maybe not right after, but it's after the scene where Illya has like convinced him to join the Uncle cause and help them break in. It cuts to Corbell talking to Rudolph, and Rudolph basically is like, hey, just letting you know, Uncle agents are gonna break into your safe, and Corbell says to Rudolph, you were waving yourself around like a flag in front of me for weeks. Which is like... It's supposed to be that basically Rudolph has been trying to join Thrush for weeks, but I'm sorry, that is a real weird phrasing for that, and it instead makes it sound like, you know, Rudolph has been like, hello, here I am, aren't I handsome?
Time to write Rubel fan fiction.
And then
how would it be called? Roarbell.
Roarbell. I feel like Rubel makes more sense. Or we could go very French mime, and it could be Marcel Corbel.
Oh!
And it's very interesting thinking about Illya being, like, extra bitchy in this episode, and thinking about his threat to Rudolph at the end, and coupled with his sort of, like, disdain for Susan, because, like, initially Illya seems almost kind of interested in Rudolph, like, and I mean that in a gay way, but then after Rudolph and Napoleon spend a bunch of time together, like, down in the safe, it's very interesting because all of a sudden Illya is just, like, super disdainful of Rudolph, and part of that is clearly that he's, like, turned on them, but it feels also a little bit like jealousy, because there is a sort of, like, parallel between how he treats Susan and how he treats Rudolph later, and so the idea that it's, like, I don't know, it does definitely feel like there's a lot of very purposeful sort of, like, use of queer shorthand in this episode.
Well, let's be real. In the sequence when Napoleon finds out that Rudolph is, intends to betray him in the safe, Napoleon acts very, like, in a domineering way towards Rudolph. Very strongly, I would say. And it also can be, like, read through a queer lens, I think, because he basically makes Rudolph sit on his hands, something like that.
Yeah. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
The parallel I was saying in terms of, like, Ilya's threat towards Rudolph at the end, and his disdain for Susan in the same sequence where Napoleon says, like, Illya doesn't even smoke. Napoleon starts sort of flirting with Susan shortly after that, and Illya literally, like, snaps the curtains shut on Napoleon and Susan.
Yes.
And there is no reason for it other than I'm upset about this. Like, the fact that he's... It was blatant enough that even my husband was like, yeah, no, there's no straight reason for doing that.
Oh man, like even when someone who's not in the fandom starts shipping it, you know that
when a heterosexual man who has not watched the rest of the series is like, yeah, that's gay.
Yeah.
Yeah, this episode in a lot of ways I feel like actually feels more like later episodes in the series.
Yeah.
Without some of the ridiculousness that comes in later, but with the friendship between Illya and Napoleon feels more established, and there's, like, just a general kind of sense that, like, the formula is in place at this point.
Yeah. And it's also very funny because it was written by a guy who had never written an episode of the show before, and he hadn't actually written any scripts before this one, so it is like a very strong first entry for a writer, I would say.
Yeah.
Because he used to be a lawyer, and I think I had told his story before, that he basically, his secretary noticed that he was writing, and she sent his stories to a publishing house, and they agreed to publish him without him even knowing about him.
Yes, I think we did talk about this in one of the previous episodes, although I don't remember why.
I don't remember either, but like it is his actual first episode that he wrote.
That's quite fascinating, because it's also a super well-paced episode.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And he also later became one of Robert Vaughn's close friends, and after filming The Man from U.N.C.L.E, they met like every week. I mean, during the show, like in the evenings, they would meet and have dinners and talk and stuff. So they had really good friendship back then. So
that's really cool.
Yeah. It's interesting.
I would say that like this episode may be like maybe crucial for establishing the future tone that Napoleon and Ilya's relationship would have in the series.
Which is basically, if you are trying to read Illya as a straight person who isn't interested in Napoleon at all, then Illya is basically the rudest friend you could have. Because he just tries to meddle with Napoleon's relationships all the time.
For no reason.
Yeah.
No reason at all.
Yeah, I hadn't really thought about that. If you're reading Illya as totally straight, he's just an asshole.
Yeah. And like I wonder that sounds so sad if some people like are so heterocentric. I don't know if that's a word, but I just coined it right now. Oh yeah, I think it is a word. People are so heterocentric that they just read Illya as an asshole. That sounds so sad to me. Imagine just seeing Illya as an asshole. Oh my god, I feel bad for them.
Whereas I, on the other hand, my shipping goggles are so firmly attached to my face that in the final scene of the safe cracking, the actual safe room, all of the air is sucked out, which it doesn't make a ton of sense, but all the air is sucked out, and Napoleon and Rudolph start to suffocate. And Illya breaks through the wall just in time to be able to save them. And literally, I went, "Oh, he's going to give Napoleon mouth to mouth." And then he didn't. And I was very sad.
You know, I've never put mouth into things that are I don't want to think of them as sexual, and I usually don't. But with the right two people,
I mean, you just have to think, how great would it be if forever on celluloid there was, in fact, Napoleon and Illya touching gloves. I accidentally portmanteaued. But yeah, no, instead Illya is like, "Here, I'm gonna stick the thing from my scuba diving tank in your mouth." Which is super non-romantic.
That sounds like a weird euphemism.
Hey, you want me, I got this scuba diving tank. Do you want it in your mouth? What does that mean?
Oh my god. So much of this show is euphemistic, so it's not even unusual.
No, it's really not.
But anyway, I really love this episode, and I think that everybody who's interested in the show should watch it because it's one of the best episodes of season 1, and basically of the entire show, arguably, because season 1 actually has one of the strongest plots of the show, however sad it may be. But it doesn't only have a strong plot, it also has so much character establishment, as we have already said. But like, I remember watching it for the first time, and I was so surprised by the way Illya was acting. Because it was so quiet in my opinion, and I just have no other way of reading it, really. Because the way he bullied the receptionist was super gay. And even the way he flirted with Susan was completely incompetent. It was like if you try to flirt without ever having flirted before.
Yeah.
It's been nifty.
It is nifty.
I feel like the way he flirts with Susan is like the way if any of you have ever been like on a train and some like drunken person has just sat down next to you and been like, hello! Like,
Yeah.
that's how it felt.
It's awful.
Yeah, it did not feel like flirting, it just felt like, oh god, why is he here?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
But yeah, I would agree with you. I think it's a really solid episode. It's like the whole heist sequence is like really surprisingly tight and well done with like good suspense and actually like really surprisingly cool sets.
Oh yeah, it's very pretty.
Yeah. And
seeing a cool sets and like cool like design and everything. I don't know why, but like watching Illya like snap the wire fence with like the wire cutters was so
very
nice
satisfying.
To me. Like literally just watching that, this was like, oh, that's so satisfying. Yes. Anyway,
Illya,
continue.
cutting chain fence ASMR.
Yeah, continue, please. I just had to bring that up. I forgot.
No, I agree with that. I was like, because it seems very real when he does that. Like, they literally handed David McCallum wire cutters and were like, cut this fence.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like the fact that this is one that, like, again, as you said, like, if you have anyone who is, if you are listening to this and you have someone who you want to watch Man from U.N.C.L.E. with you, like, this is a good episode to use as, like, an introduction, I think, in some ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Thinking about the fact that, like, my husband decided to join me for this one was like, I really liked that. That was great. And yeah, so I feel like it has mainstream appeal outside of like all the gay stuff we've been talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's like actually a good episode, not like one of those like later Man from U.N.C.L.E. episodes that is great. It's like fandom and gay content, but pretty poor on the actual quality scale. We'll get to those episodes eventually, but this episode actually is really good television.
Yeah. I've my other like fandom thing that I'm doing these days is reviewing Starsky and Hutch episodes, and I've mentioned doing that my favorite kind are the ones that are actually good. But my second favorite kind are the kind that are like stupid but fun. And like there's a lot of U.N.C.L.E. episodes that are stupid but fun, and this is not one of them. This one is fun and well done.
Yeah. And it has just the right amount of lightheartedness, like with like Napoleon being amazingly prepared with those rubber rafts, that like it isn't like too like it's not, it doesn't feel like dumb, it just feels like fun to me, and I like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think there's a fine line with that, and it like doesn't like cross it, so it's totally good.
And the thing that I really love about the Man from U.N.C.L.E. is it doesn't have many episodes that are like boring and bad.
Yeah.
It's either fun or good.
Yeah. Like, I gotta say, okay, we'll get to this episode eventually, but, like, the My Friend the Gorilla Affair, that episode made me laugh so hard. But it's like, I'm not getting to that here. We should cover that later. So, in the meantime, like, I really like this episode. I would highly recommend it to anyone, like, who wants to introduce someone to U.N.C.L.E. And, yeah, I don't have much else to add about it.
Yeah.
And we are, like, soon we're getting many other episodes that will be both good and fun, because like the last 10 episodes of season 1, I think they're like the best episodes maybe of the show. Arguably. And I would say that this one is on their level, but compared to the previous 15 episodes of the show, it's even better than them. So it's like the first of episodes that are truly great, I would say, probably.
Yeah.
Maybe I would also mention the Project Strikers affair, but I don't even know if it's on the same level, but it's pretty close, I say. I think, yeah. The Project Strikers affair is the one with William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy.
Yeah, that one's really good too. That's actually the other one my husband watched too.
So your husband's like that's your husband's like watch the good ones, like
yep,
the only man from U.N.C.L.E. Okay, this is so bad. The only man from U.N.C.L.E. episode my mom has watched with me is the My Friend the Gorilla.
I mean, I have kind of purposefully curated this, like he's definitely, like, when I first was watching the series the first time around, there were a couple times, like, he came in as I was watching one of the, like, doofy season 3 episodes, and he was like, what is happening? And I was like, I literally cannot explain this to you. So, like, he knows that it gets stupid, but he was like, it sounds like it's mostly a good show. And I'm like, it is mostly a good show. And, like, again, if you have, like, a high tolerance for, like, camp, then it's all a good show.
Yeah, I agree with that. And like for those of our listeners who don't know, My Friend the Gorilla is infamous for being like the worst episode of the show.
Yeah, it's pretty dumb.
Yeah, it's so dumb.
There is literally a man in a gorilla suit who is who we are supposed to accept is an actual gorilla.
Yeah, and there's the only depictions of any realism with animals or anything is they just put in really low quality stock footage in between the crappy sets. It's just
it's not good. But it'll be a while before we get to that one.
Yeah. So basically, I would say that Hannah's husband has the best intuition for episodes, while Logan's mother has the worst.
Indeed.
Yeah, she knows that the episode is going to actually be good too, but she's never seen them. She assesses across the board.
If I knew that a show was good and I saw only My Friend Gorilla, I wouldn't want to watch any more of it.
Oh.
It's so bad. I hate it, actually.
Yeah, I promise the rest of this show is good. Yeah, no, the gorilla only shows up in 6 or 7 episodes. That's fine.
Oh, imagine that! Oh my god. One of the most beloved side characters, gorilla.
I mean, there is also an episode with a man in a Yeti suit, but at least we're not supposed to accept that that's actually a Yeti.
Yeah. And it was Illya in it. it's a show that exists. I guess. I wanted to ask you, Hannah, how much of Hustle have you watched already?
Oh gosh, we're in maybe the second to last season, I think.
Oh wow, great! Because like people often have trouble with getting through the cast change.
Yeah, my only problem with the cast change was when Billy disappeared completely and no one ever mentioned him again. I do not like that they were like, we have a 1 black man per show limit.
Yeah.
We completely forgot Billy existed because we got Mickey back.
Yeah. It was sad because Billy was fun.
Yeah. And like, even if it had just been a throwaway line, like, oh yeah, he moved to Scotland, like, that would have been fine, but they literally never mention him again. Yeah, I'm trying to see what season we're in. We're either in the end of 6 or the beginning of 7.
Okay.
I think
Yeah,
we should
we're in the
have an
beginning of 7.
episode because like
Yeah,
we're
this
just
is
so far along.
No.
Anyway, if you also want to see more of Robert Vaughn, you should also watch Hustle.
Yeah. Season 7 finale was very Robert was heavy, and it made me cry so much. So I guess you have that to look forward to. Yeah. So basically, for me, Hustle is like the second to favorite Robert Vaughn show because it's so much fun.
Yeah.
And you can 100% headcanon him as being Napoleon.
The only reason I don't is because where the hell is Illya?
Yeah. No, but Illya became a doctor and he works in the States.
You're telling me that they don't just like share a flat together? No, I don't accept it.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
So, shall we sign off with the idea that, you know, somewhere in the early 2000s, an elderly Napoleon and Illya live together in a nice little apartment somewhere, and they continue calling each other nifty and dashing and winking at each other over champagne well into their 80s.
Absolutely. It's the best of the world.
Yep.
Okay, so I guess we will end our episode here, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
No coconut long voice, nothing.
Alright, so then we are signing off.
Yeah.
Yep. Bye, everyone.
Have a lovely rest of your day, folks.
Yep.